Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions for the boomers. Let's begin with our first question. Why did Japan withdraw from the League of Nations in 1933? The criticism over actions in Manchuria, building a navy in the Pacific, or invading China? Criticism over actions in Manchuria. What fashion designer introduced the surreal lobster dress in 1937? Elsa Schiaparelli, Coco Chanel, or Jean Lanvin? Elsa Schiaparelli. What resource was the 1932 to 1935 conflict between Bolivia and Paraguay fought over? Gold, oil, or uranium? Oil. Who originally sold the Monopoly board game in 1935? Barker Brothers, Marker Brothers, or Parker Brothers? Parker Brothers. What company launched the instant coffee brand Nescafé in 1938? Suntory, Nestle, or the Coca-Cola Company? Nestle. What type of Major League Baseball games began in 1935? Winter games, night games, or indoor games? Night games. What hair treatment gave women's hairstyles more structure during the 1930s? Permanent waves, permanent rolls, or permanent straightness? Permanent waves, or perms. What natural disaster reshaped the Florida Keys in 1935? The Memorial Day hurricane, Independence Day hurricane, or Labor Day hurricane? The Labor Day hurricane. What literary work became a key Harlem Renaissance novel despite receiving little attention at release? Their eyes were watching God, their hearts were watching God, or their minds were watching God? Their eyes were watching God. What cosmetics pioneer popularized the term makeup in the 1930s? Max Factor, L'Oreal, or Estee Lauder? Max Factor. What U.S. state introduced the first air quality regulations in 1938? California, Oregon, or Washington? California. Whose record of 2,130 consecutive baseball games stood for decades after being set in 1939? Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, or Lou Gehrig? Lou Gehrig. What fabric replaced silk during the Great Depression for affordability? Rayon, bamboo, or wool? Rayon. Where did the first jet engine test aviation milestone happen? This happened in 1939. The question is where? Germany, France, or the UK? Germany. What legislation restricted U.S. involvement in foreign wars between 1935 and 1937? The Neutrality Acts, Nationalism Acts, or Nobility Acts? Neutrality Acts. Where was the 1932 Winter Olympic Games? Lake Louise, Alberta, Lake Placid, New York, or Lake Chapala, Mexico City? Lake Placid, New York. What white chocolate product was introduced in 1936? Bubble, Dream, or Milky Bar? Milky Bar. What continent's coastline was mapped extensively in the 1930s? Antarctica, Australia, or South America? Antarctica. What 1942 gallery, opened by Peggy Guggenheim, introduced American artists to European modernism? The art of this hemisphere, art of this era, or art of this century? Art of this century. We are at question 20. Where was the Tillamook Burn forest fires from 1933 to 1951? Oregon, Montana, or Kentucky? Oregon. What U.S. National Institute of Health Research was founded in 1949? The National Institute of Respiratory Health, of Mental Health, or of Post-Traumatic Health? The National Institute of Mental Health. What rocket, developed by Wernher von Braun in the 1940s, influenced the U.S. space program? The V-1 rocket, the V-2 rocket, or the V-3 rocket? The V-2 rocket. Where was the synthetic fiber terylene invented? In 1941, the US, the UK, or the Netherlands? The US. What car was originally launched in 1938 as the Flying 8? Royal 8, Standard 8, or Victory 8? Standard 8. What was the rival to the Big Bang Theory from the 1940s to the 1960s? shock sun, steady state universe, or evolutionary solar? Steady state universe. What snack invented in 1939 became popular during World War II due to sugar rationing? The banana split, popcorn, or Rice Krispie treats? Rice Krispie treats. What civilian award did President Truman establish in 1945? The Medal of Valor, the Medal of Freedom, or the Medal of Honor? The Medal of Freedom. What electronics company, founded in 1946, later became Sony? Kyoto, Osaka, or Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corps? The Tokyo Telecommunications Engineering Corps. What Romanian monarch opposed Nazi Germany but was forced to abdicate in 1947? King Michael I, King Maxim I, or King Matthias I? King Michael I. We are at question 30. What civil rights group formed in the 1940s to fight segregation? People Around Racial Equality, Christian Unity Racial Equality, or Congress of Racial Equality? Congress of Racial Equality. What beauty trend expanded during World War II, led by Revlon's product range? Lipstick, hair dye, or nail polish? Nail polish. What critical decision did Truman announce in 1945 to end World War II? The use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, relocation of troops to bolster the Pacific Front, or a peace treaty between the US and Japan? The use of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What massive US government building was completed in 1943? The United States Capitol, the Eisenhower Executive Office Building, or the Pentagon? The Pentagon. What popular snack mix was introduced by Ralston Purina in 1949? Chex Mix, bonbons, or puppy chow? Chex Mix. What language was officially established as a national language in India in 1949? Hindi, English, or Arabic? Hindi. What political entity in France was established in 1946? The Second Republic, Third Republic, or Fourth Republic? The Fourth Republic. What life-saving medical advancement developed during World War II, saving many soldiers? Amputation, vaccine, or blood banks? blood banks. Where did the 1948 cyclone Mahina devastate in Australia? Western Australia, Queensland, or Northern Territory? Queensland. What late-night talk show first aired in 1954, setting the format for future shows? The Tonight Show, The Late Show, or The Talk Show? The Tonight Show. What NBA team emerged as a powerhouse in the 50s? The Chicago Bulls, the Boston Celtics, or the Cleveland Cavaliers? The Boston Celtics. What 1951 book raised awareness about marine conservation? The sea around us, the water around us, or the oceans around us? The sea around us. What 1957 U.S. policy aimed to limit Soviet influence in the Middle East? The Eisenhower Doctrine, the Truman Doctrine, or the Roosevelt Doctrine? The Eisenhower Doctrine. What powdered drink mix became popular with astronauts after being launched in 1957? Snapple, Tang, or Crush? Tang. What was the 1940s and 50s radio personality Paul Harvey's phrase? And now you know the rest of the story, it, or what's happening? The story. What medical advancement during the 50s transformed cancer treatment? Chemotherapy drugs, immunosuppressant drugs, or radiation drugs? Chemotherapy drugs. What environmental prediction was made by scientists in the 50s? Recovery from nuclear testing and waste, rising CO2 levels and climate change, or next phase of evolution? Rising CO2 levels and climate change. What clothing item became associated with intellectual circles in the 50s? Turtlenecks, tweed, or trilby hats? Turtlenecks. What conflict, lasting from 1948 to 1960, was fought in a British-controlled region? The Malayan Emergency, Indian Emergency, or Hong Kong Emergency? Malayan Emergency. Whose research on operant conditioning advanced psychology in the 1950s? John B. Watson, Edward Thorndike, or B.F. Skinner? B.F. Skinner. We are halfway through at question 50. What 1960s beauty trend accompanied dramatic eye makeup? Plastic jewels, colored contacts, or false eyelashes? False eyelashes. What wave of immigration reshaped British society during the 60s? Turkish, Irish, or Caribbean? Caribbean immigration. What was Prince Charles inducted as in 1969? The Prince of Wales, the Duke of Wales, or the Earl of Wales? The Prince of Wales. What book by James Baldwin addressed civil rights in 1963? The Flood Next Time, The Fire Next Time, or The Fall Next Time? The Fire Next Time. Where was the 1967 to 1970 Biafra conflict that highlighted the humanitarian impact of civil wars? Rwanda, Sudan, or Nigeria? Nigeria. What women's tuxedo suit did Yves Saint Laurent introduce in 1966? Le walking, le dining, or le smoking? Le smoking. What rock band gained creative control with their 1969 record label? The Beatles, the Beach Boys, or the Rolling Stones? The Rolling Stones. What pioneering virtual reality system was created in 1968? The Sword of Damocles, the Sword of Hercules, or the Sword of Orpheus? The Sword of Damocles. What cereal was introduced in 1964 that combined marshmallows and grains? Frosted Mini Wheats, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, or Lucky Charms? Lucky Charms. What early personal computer debuted in 1969 with a graphical user interface? Xerox Alto, IBM Alto, or RCA Alto? The Xerox Alto. What car became a symbol of counterculture in the 60s? Morris Minor, Volkswagen Beetle, or the MG Magnet? The Volkswagen Beetle. What iconic menu item did McDonald's introduce in 1967? The Baconator, Whopper, or Big Mac? The Big Mac. What was the OLED innovation developed in the 60s that paved the way for modern screens? Orbital light emitting diode, ocular light emitting, or organic light emitting? Organic light emitting. What poetry collection, published by Robert Lowell in 1959, influenced confessional poetry? Life Studies, Life Staircases, or Life Stories? Life Studies. Who was targeted in Indonesia's mass killing event in Indonesia from 65 to 66? Christians and foreigners, progressives and Democrats, or communists and dissidents? Communists and dissidents. What type of shoes became a unisex fashion trend in the 70s? Sneakers, platforms, or go-go boots? Platforms. What book launched Stephen King's horror writing career in 1974? Carrie, It, or The Shining? Carrie. Which country's Cold War-fueled civil war began in 1975? Angola, Cuba, or Egypt? Angola. What type of books became bestsellers in the 1970s promoting personal growth? New Testament, self-help books, or confessional memoir? Self-help books. What brand introduced gourmet flavored candy in 1976? Starburst, Skittles, or Jelly Belly? Jelly Belly. What international movement in the 70s promoted independence from Cold War superpowers? Non-oppressed movement, non-clothed movement, or non-aligned movement? The non-aligned movement. What 1971 album by Led Zeppelin included Stairway to Heaven but had no official title? Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4, or Led Zeppelin 5? Led Zeppelin 4. What was the first national seashore designated by the U.S. in 1970? Canaveral National Seashore, Cumberland Island National Seashore, or Cape Cod National Seashore? Cape Cod National Seashore. Who wasn't involved in the 1977 to 1978 Ogaden War? Eritrea, Somalia, or Ethiopia? Eritrea. What change to U.S. voting laws occurred in 1971 reflecting youth activism? Voting age lowered to 18, voting age lowered to 19, or lowered to 20? Lowered to 18. became the first female jockey to compete in the Kentucky Derby in 1970? Jenny Hambro, Charlotte Brew, or Diane Crump? Diane Crump. What newspaper won multiple Pulitzer Prizes in the 70s for reporting on Watergate and the Pentagon Papers? The Wall Street Journal, the USA Today, or the New York Times? The New York Times. Who declined the 1973 Nobel Peace Prize they co-won with Henry Kissinger? Ho Chi Minh, Le Duc Tho, or Mai Chi Tho? Le Duc Tho. What perfume did Revlon release in the 1970s? Chiara, Tiara, or Liara? Chiara. What inspired the Nike swoosh logo design in 1971? The Celtic goddess Nike, the Greek goddess Nike, or the Egyptian goddess Nike? The Greek goddess Nike. We are at question 80. What cultural heritage initiative began in the 70s designating significant global sites? World Heritage Sites, World Wonder Sites, or the Cultural Significance Sites? World Heritage Sites. What sitcom aired from 1971 to 1979 and revolutionized TV by addressing controversial issues? All Together Now, All Family First, or All in the Family? All in the Family. What 1970 novel by Margaret Atwood explored gender and consumerism? The Handmaid's Tale, Bodily Harm, or The Edible Woman? The Edible Woman. What 1987 repeal paved the way for politically polarized talk radio in the U.S.? Equity Doctrine repeal, Representation Doctrine repeal, or Fairness Doctrine repeal? The Fairness Doctrine repeal. What was the first treatment for AIDS in 1987? AZT, BZT, or CZT? AZT. What Japanese designer didn't introduce avant-garde styles to Western fashion in the 80s? Vera Wang, Issey Miyake, or Comme des Garçons? Vera Wang. Where was the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan in 1981? New York, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, or Washington, D.C.? Washington, D.C. What crucial particles in the Stanford model were confirmed by physicists in the 80s? W and Z bosons, Y and Z bosons, or X and Z bosons? W and Z bosons. What track and field star set world records in the 100 meter and 200 meter at the 1988 Seoul Olympics? Claudia Azarenza, Mary Berkeley, or Florence Griffith Joyner? Florence Griffith Joyner. What nationality is the computer scientist Tim Berners-Lee, who laid the foundation for the internet in 1989? English, Scottish, or Welsh? English. What rare supernova explosion was observed by astronomers in 1987? Supernova 1987A, B, or C? Supernova 1987A. During which event did the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake strike the San Francisco Bay Area? The 1989 Super Bowl, the NBA Finals of 1989, or the 1989 World Series? The World Series. Question 92. What was the first mid-engine sports car produced by an American manufacturer in 1984? The Buick Regal, the Ford Mustang SVO, or the Pontiac Fiero? The Pontiac Fiero. What 1987 did Bob Woodward write to follow up his investigations into Watergate? So what did Bob Woodward write in 1987? Obscure, Veil, or Shroud? Veil. What NBA team drafted Michael Jordan in 1984, starting his legendary career? The LA Clippers, the New York Knicks, or the Chicago Bulls? The Chicago Bulls. What handheld mobile phone was released by Motorola in 1983? The Dynatac 4000X, Dynatac 6000X, or Dynatac 8000X? The Dynatac 8000X. What U.S. legislative action in the 1980s imposed sanctions on South Africa? Sanctions against USSR collaboration, against apartheid, or against emissions? Against apartheid. What project conceived in the 1980s became a joint NASA venture? The International Space Exploration, the International Space Politicization, or the International Space Station? The International Space Station, the ISS. What salad dressing, popularized in the 1980s, became a staple in American households? Ranch, balsamic, or Caesar? Ranch. What was the first genetically modified plant developed in 1983? Corn, tobacco, or cotton? Tobacco. For what translation did Seamus Heaney win the 1987 Whitbread Award? Oedipus, the Iliad, or Beowulf? Beowulf. And for our bonus question, what did Cyndi Lauper sing in 1983? Girls Just Want to Have What? Let us know the answer in the comments. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.